what are the first steps that a typical father needs to take to better themselves as a whole? I would say the first steps that somebody, and really anybody, not just a guy that's a dad, that anybody really needs to take is just figure out how they can move towards the goal that they have while also tailoring it to their lifestyle. A lot of people have goals in fitness and really any endeavor in life, but there's what's optimal overall and there's what's optimal for your specific lifestyle, and it's not always going to be the same, right? An example of this is for somebody that's trying to lose a ton of weight, but they have a full-time job, they're super busy, maybe they're running a company. We might not be able to squeeze in longer workouts into somebody's calendar, right? They might only have 30 minutes a day that they can go and work out. In a lab setting, is that optimal? It's far from optimal, right? We're typically gonna need more time than that, but it might be optimal for that person's lifestyle. Because if that's all the calendar allows, that's all the calendar allows. And a lot of people try to put a square or a round, what is the saying? It's like a square peg in a round hole, whatever they're trying to do there, right? And when they do that, they find themselves burning out. They find themselves not getting to where they wanna get to because they try to force themselves into that box. And you don't have to do that. You don't have to do what the research says is optimal. You need to do what's optimal for you and what you have going on with your circumstances. I think you absolutely have to be cautious, but I think it's difficult to be cautious. A lot of the information that's out there nutritionally or training-wise, any kind of fitness information really that's out there today, there's always gonna be a trail of breadcrumbs back to profits. So if I speak on this from a perspective of massive corporations, things like that I refer to as big food, right? You have to look at what's being sold to you, always. If you're in a supermarket and you look at something in a box, the words on that are designed for you to buy it. They're not designed for you to have an optimal outcome for your health. They're designed for an optimal outcome for whoever is producing its pockets. And that's just reality. That's not even me putting on a tinfoil hat. That's just literally business and capitalism at play. Whether or not it's ethical is a completely different conversation. So no matter who you are, when you're trying to move towards fitness goals and health goals, you have to consider that as a factor, right? And you have to do what I refer to as just narrowing down your sources of information. Because if you're taking in information from a million different sources, you're gonna get a million different answers. And all of them could work. They could if you stuck to one of them. And so the biggest thing that we focus on with the guys is this idea of changing your default actions, because all your default actions are is your subconscious habits. It's how do you develop consistency? It's how do I do this thing over and over and over again? Because the number one factor for you to achieve these goals is gonna be that consistency. So you could take the keto guy's advice and it might work if you stuck to it. You could take the frickin' vegan guy's advice and it might work if you stuck to it. You could take the bro science guy's approach and it might work if you stuck to it. But ultimately, the overarching theme for anybody is the default actions is, can I make this something that I do regardless of the circumstances? Can I make this as simple as waking up and brushing my teeth? I don't even have to think about it. Because if you can do that, it doesn't matter what information you take in and what you apply, really. Because if somebody's showing it on the internet and they have proof of results, like that strategy might work if you can default to it for an extended period of time. So absolutely be cautious. But overall, I think what's best is picking a methodology and then forcing yourself, getting yourself to that situation where you can just default to that methodology. That's gonna get you the results. So Default Kings, what we do is we help guys that have been stuck in that yo-yo cycle, right? Where they'll lose the weight, they'll gain back more, or they do the crash diet and they fall off of it. They apply any of those methodologies that we were previously talking about for a short period of time, and maybe they see results in that short period of time, but they can't stick to it. They can't do it sustainably for the rest of their life. They can't default to it. So what we do at Default Kings is we teach guys the psychological processes required to actually stick to those habit changes, to actually make them subconscious, to actually make it something that's as simple as brushing your teeth. You wake up and you do it. You don't have to consider it. It's just a part of who you are. And what that looks like, broad overview, is first things first, we have to get into the weeds on the identities that you hold about yourself. Every single action that we take in day-to-day life is a result of the identities and the beliefs that you hold about yourself and about the world. And so we have to get into the nitty-gritty about how do you see yourself? Right? What do you believe to be true? And once we can see the negative identities that you have, the negative beliefs that you hold about the world and your circumstances and who you are as a man, we can change those over time to move into positive ones that are actually going to move you towards the goals that you have. So that is objective number one with DK, is get into the weeds about what it is you believe about the world and about yourself, and move you in a direction that's going to allow you to take the actions that move you towards the goals that you have. And the only way to do that is to change those beliefs, change those identities, and have the psychological framework in place to do so. The reason that we target the guys that we do, which is typically guys aged 30 to 50, typically some sort of Midwest roots, some traditional family-minded values. The reason we target these guys is because me and my co-owner, Gabe Pluguez, we both went through experiences growing up with our fathers in that age range of that similar belief state, of those similar experiences of trying things and maybe they work short term, but they don't work for an extended period of time. We both experienced that, and we both saw the impact that an unhealthy father figure can have in the home, can have on the family dynamic. And I'll speak on my situation specifically because I know Gabe has more details he could share about his, but I'll speak on mine specifically. Like, my dad was a physical therapist. My dad had a master's degree in exercise science. He knows exactly what he needs to do to be healthy, and he's not choosing to be unhealthy. It's a result of identities and beliefs that he holds about himself, and those identities and beliefs are causing his day-to-day actions, and those day-to-day actions become ingrained as subconscious habits, as default actions. And so we have to unwire that. And the reason we target the guys we do is because we feel like this is a way for us to give back to our fathers. We feel like this is a way to impact generations to come, generations of guys that are probably have similar mindsets and similar values of Gabe and myself. And how do we actually take those guys in that age range and allow them to make these changes now, make them sustainable now, so future families, future generations don't have to feel the repercussions that Gabe and I felt in our own homes as a result of having fathers that struggled with weight and unhealthy habits for their whole life. When you think about what a father figure is in a household, if you come from somebody that has similar values and beliefs of myself and Gabe, that healthy father figure is a leader. And it's going to be very, very hard to lead at your maximum capacity if you are unhealthy. And this is not even just me saying platitudes or pulling from bullshit. This is just pure science. If you think about what leadership is, it is an emotional thing. If you look at this through a business lens, you have leadership and you have management. They're two different things. Leadership is emotional, management is logical. But looking at leadership in a home, an emotional thing, it's going to be nearly impossible for you to manage the emotions of a household and lead these people if you don't even have the best management of your own mood, of your own emotions. Because poor health, there is science. This is not me just pro-sciencing this, right? Like, there's hard data on how it negatively impacts your subconscious thoughts, how it negatively impacts your cognitive ability, how it negatively impacts your moods and your ability to control your temper and things along those lines. So literally just being unhealthy will make you a less capable leader within the household. And if there's one thing that I think is true, it's that if you heal men, you heal a nation. And that's a direct quote pulled from one of our mentors, Mr. Jeremy Alexander Newsom. And we see this play out time and again inside the program, where a guy will come in and he will literally say the biggest benefit of being inside the program and getting his health in control is how much better his relationship is with his wife, how much better his relationship is with his kids, because he's improving his literal cognitive ability to lead. He's getting healthier. He has more control, and he can make a greater impact on that family unit that he has. What we tell everybody on the kickoff calls, and I used to take every single kickoff call that we had, what I told everybody is, when you're coming into DK, when you're coming into this program and working with us, and I think this goes for anything you're doing, whether or not you work with us at all. If you do any kind of fitness coaching program, any kind of coaching program at all, is you have to pay attention to the boring work, right? You have to pay attention to the tedious stuff, and you have to understand that any kind of change is going to be uncomfortable, but not making a change is uncomfortable too. Right? It's going to be hard. If you stay fat, if you stay tired and lazy and depressed and unhappy, like, that's really hard. And making a change is going to be hard too. You're going to come into the program and we're going to do a lot of shit that's going to make you uncomfortable, and it's going to take work, but on the other side of it is you're eliminating that depressive moods that you're dealing with right now. You're improving your marriage, you're improving your relationship with your children, you have the energy back, you're not tired, right? You have more confidence. This is all on the other side of work, and that work is hard, it is uncomfortable. So I think the thing you have to expect is do that boring work. Don't be afraid to make a change and get a little uncomfortable, because that's the nature of any change that you're gonna make. And ultimately, it's gonna be a whole lot less painful than staying exactly where you are. What this mission has done for me, and I'm not a founder, right? Gabe is the founder. And he was somebody that opened the door for me to come in and develop as a man. You know, I'd been in the coaching world for years, worked with thousands of people in different settings, rehabilitative, athletic, personal training, weight loss, whatever it may be. And this was an opportunity vehicle for me to come in and do it at an even bigger scale through things like content, through things like having a community like this, and being able to share this knowledge, share these gifts with more and more people that, again, are like my father. You know, guys that struggle with very similar things to him, guys that are not choosing to be in the state that they're in, but they find themselves stuck there because of the habits that they have ingrained at a subconscious level. Right? So what DK has done for me is it's allowed me the opportunity to do what I feel is giving back to the men that are just like my father. Right? And when Gabe opened the door to me to come in here and lead the fulfillment side of this business, I was right in my pocket. I was right in my wheelhouse. I was exactly where I wanted to be and contributing to this mission in the way that I knew I best could, because my best skill set was come in here and get these people the results. Come in here and make the product better. Come in here and make the client experience better, and build a team that allows us to continue to do it at scale. So what DK has done for me is it's allowed me to just fully embrace my gifts, my God-given gifts, and take them, impact people at scale, and continue to grow this thing. When I made the decision to drop out of college, for me it was because I was presented with a no-brainer opportunity, right? I was staring at the option of complete a degree and then have an additional 3 years on top of that to have less of an impact than I was already having as a college student on lives being inside this program and being able to do this on the internet. So for me, I had the opportunity to literally do what I loved, right? Have freedom of opportunity and do it for more people. The internet is a force multiplier, right? It's something that allows us to not only impact the people that are in a clinic or in a local vicinity, but literally anybody in the world that has internet access can be positively impacted by what we're doing here. So the opportunity to leave college was a no-brainer for me, right? Was it hard? Absolutely, it was hard. Of course it was. There was a lot of hard conversations that had to happen. I had to explain myself to a lot of people, but I knew deep down in my soul that that was the best thing I could do to further impact people and touch more and more and more lives. Growing up, I definitely didn't think that I would be doing this specifically. I always knew growing up, though, that I would be in a situation where I was impacting lives in the physical capacity. I would be impacting people's health in some way. Both my parents were physical therapists, and I spent the majority of my childhood and adolescence in clinics that they were involved in with patients of theirs, learning the kinesiology of the human body, right? And understanding how to help people improve whatever area of their health was missing. So I knew all along that I was gonna be in the health field, but I definitely didn't think I was gonna have a business that's at the scale that it is at 22 years old and impacting people in this way. My original plan was to take the traditional route, the same route that both my parents took, and go get my 4-year degree, exercise science, go to PT school and be a physical therapist in some kind of capacity. And when I got into the online coaching space, again, I realized just how big of a vehicle there was doing this on the internet. How many more people can be impacted? How many more people can hear this message, our message? How many more lives can be saved? How many more families can be saved? How many more generations can be altered by me putting on a mic, getting in front of a camera, and starting a Twitter account, starting an Instagram account, a YouTube account, and just sharing my experiences from coaching all of these people, right? So while I didn't think I was going to be in this specific situation, right? If you told me I'd be doing an interview like this in front of this beautiful lake down in Florida at 22 years old, if you would have told me that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I would have told you there's no way. I can't even envision that. But now that I'm here, it feels so undeniably clear that this is where I was supposed to be. I think when it comes to DK, the biggest thing that we have from a business perspective is product market fit, right? We have a product that solves a very specific problem for a very specific group of people, right? For those guys, typically age 30 to 50, that have struggled with that yo-yo cycle, that have struggled with the constant binge restrict cycle, falling off the wagon every month or two, teaching them to actually develop subconscious habits, to develop default actions that allow these changes to stick, to allow them to not only lose the weight, but lose the weight permanently. And when I say lose it permanently, I mean doing that effortlessly, because it becomes a part of who they are. It becomes ingrained at a subconscious level. It becomes a subconscious habit, a default action of theirs. So the fact that we have such a good product market fit, the scale to which we can take this is literally up to us. It is limitless. If we want to keep learning and growing, we can absolutely do that, and we have the resources to do it. We have the people, the connections to do that, and continue to learn and grow. The ceiling is just wherever we put it. When it comes to DK at its peak, though, what I see is a flourishing community. And when I say community, I mean in a client perspective, but I also mean from a team perspective. I want this to be a place where everybody that walks in the door leaves a better person than they were when they walked in. Whether you're a client, whether you're a part of our team and you're helping serve these people that we work with, or helping grow this mission, what DK is going to be is the opportunity for anybody and everybody to come in here and leave better than when they walked in. That's DK at its peak. I mean, I think DK has already achieved what I view as success, right? Even if I was to look at my previous answer talking about the peak of what DK is, if it's just a place where people come in and they leave better than they were, whether you're on the team or clients, we're already doing that. So in terms of success, I think it's along the same lines, right? Where if we can positively impact everybody that we come into contact with in some way, right? That is success. And I think we're already doing that. And I think a lot of people put like this number or this barrier on success, and they're like, once I get to XYZ revenue or XYZ profit, like then I'll consider myself successful. But I think what me and Gabe have done a really good job of is already considering ourselves successful. Obviously we have goals. We have places that we want to go. And a lot of them come back to numbers, because at the end of the day, that's how you keep scoring business. Those numbers are there because they're a reflection of the impact that's being had, right? If you have $100 million business, you've impacted a shitload of lives, right? That number is just a reflection of the lives impacted. But I don't define, a $100 million business as success. I define what we're already doing as success. We're already positively impacting everybody that we come into contact with in some sort of way. Whether they're a teammate, whether they're a client, their lives are changed for the better. And there are hundreds of people that would come on this and tell you that they've had a positive experience with us and their life has been positively impacted by being in connection with this company. So I think we're already successful. Like, I think that definition of success has already been met for me in terms of DK. Now it's about how do we just go and continue to spread and continue to grow and have a broader reach of that positive impact. Man, the biggest guy that comes to mind right away is Mr. Drew Hartman, because we just spent a whole week on a yacht with him in Croatia, which was amazing. And he's been with us now for approaching 6 months, but in his first 4.5 months, he lost 73 pounds. Right? And he was a guy that he's very openly shared his story. I had a client spotlight interview with him, and he was talking about how his father, who passed away about a year ago, was somebody that spent his entire life trying to build his pension, to build his life savings, and he ended up passing away too soon to be able to go and see it because of his poor health. So he spent all of his life saving with that money and never even got to use it because he had poor health. Drew's also talked about how there's not been a man in his family that's lived over 65. So he's seen how this negative health can impact everything. And he's somebody that came into this program having previously lost 120 pounds, gained it all back, came into the program, and he's lost 73 pounds in his first 4.5 months. He's actually, beyond 80 now at the time of this recording. he'll lose 100 pounds in a year. Right? But the difference this time is he will keep it off because it's become a part of who he is. It's not something that he did like the first time where he was doing a Weight Watchers style hard cut elimination, gruesome training, things that couldn't possibly become habits. He's done it in a way that this is now who he is, and this is sustainable. Right? He's told me that he has to force himself to eat, right? Where most people are starving when they're losing weight. He has to force himself to eat to make sure he hits his calories. That's how much he's eating, right? We were in Croatia. Every restaurant we went to, he's ordering double protein, right? He was asking me if I wanted to work out. Right? He's asking the coach if I wanted to work out while we're on vacation. This is who he is. It's a part of his identity. And that is the biggest thing with default actions is it becomes a part of you. It's ingrained at a subconscious level. You don't have to think about it, right? Drew wasn't at the restaurant opening the menu and going like, man, I better order double protein. He looked at us and he's like, there's not many protein options here, right? Drew didn't wake up and go, oh man, like I got a workout today. No, he woke up, he found me, he said, hey dude, you want to get a workout in on the boat? It's a part of who he is, and when he doesn't do it, he experiences cognitive dissonance. So when you take a guy like Drew, if you could get everybody to that point where they experience cognitive dissonance, if they don't do what they're supposed to do, if they don't do the things that move the needle on their health or sustain the health or sustain the weight loss for them, if you can get to that point where you experience cognitive dissonance, if you don't do it, that's how it's going to stick, right? That's how you know it's hardwired into who you are and what you do in your day-to-day life. And Drew is a perfect example of that, which I have a whole client spotlight interview with him on my YouTube channel. So go check that out. We'll put it somewhere in the description, I'm sure, so you can see that. But he's an amazing guy, and just spent a whole week with him. So he's always the one that comes to mind right now. For me, I feel like our entire responsibility as business owners, especially in the health field that we're in, is to literally produce case studies. It's to produce testimonials. The entire function of a business is a value exchange, right? People are giving you money in exchange for a service, in exchange for some sort of value. And if you aren't delivering on that, in my mind, you are scamming people. That is fraud. So when somebody hands us a couple $1,000s to go and change their lives, right? We don't take that lightly. So when a case study like Drew's comes through, or any kind of successful case study comes through, everybody's like, man, doesn't that make you feel great? It's so good for marketing and all that stuff. I'm like, no, we just did our job. Like, that's what we were supposed to do. Like, Drew's not supposed to join the program and not see results. He's supposed to come into the program and see results. So when we get a case study, I'm like, sweet, we did exactly what we were supposed to do. And I think that's where, if you look at the market of fitness, I think that's where it gets a little skewed, because I've personally talked to a ton of coaches that they're like, man, I have this sick case study, right? Like, I got this crazy one. And that's good. You should be excited about really cool case studies like that. But at the end of the day, it's your job to print case studies. That's exactly what you should be striving to do. And if you're not doing that, you're dropping the ball as a business owner, and you won't be in business very long, right? And if you do stay in business, you're going to be scraping and clawing by. So when we get those case studies, man, of course it feels good when you have a crazy one like Drew, but at the end of the day, we're just doing what we're supposed to do. We're doing what people are paying us to do. That is our moral obligation as ethical business owners to do. The reason we thrive over other competitors is because we focus on the actual route. The reason the yo-yo cycle, right, the on your game, off your game, binge restrict, the reason that even exists is because of psychology, is because nobody's gotten to the root psychological causes of people behaving like that. It's psychology. It's behavioral psychology. It's literally a result of what's going on between the ears. And my father's the perfect example of that, where again, he's literally a physical therapist. He's got more exercise science knowledge than me. He has a master's degree in it. Right? I didn't finish my exercise science degree. I dropped out of college to run this business, right? But he was still 50 pounds overweight for a decade. It's all what's going on between the ears. It's not a knowledge thing. And I think where a lot of other competitors and a lot of other coaches or people in the space that are trying to run similar things get it wrong is they're so focused on like, hey, what's the workout? Hey, what's the nutrition? Hey, what's the sleep? Which is all important stuff. You need to know your shit. Obviously, if you're giving people advice, you need to know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to those things. But none of that matters if they can't do it sustainably and they can't stick to it for the rest of their life. I could give you the most amazing workout plan in the world, but if you don't go to the fucking gym, it's not gonna matter. I could give you an amazing meal plan that guarantees you lose 100 pounds this year, but if you don't do the meal plan for more than a month, it's not gonna matter. I can give you all the sleep hacks in the world, but if you only use them 1 out of the 7 nights a week, you're still gonna feel pretty tired. So by addressing the actual root psychological cause of why is this happening, what's actually going on between people's ears as to why they're still fat or why they lose some weight and gain it all back, because nobody's addressing what's going on between the ears other than us. And even if they tell you they are, they don't know like we do. They haven't taken themselves to the own depths of their personal hell like me and Gabe have with our own mentorship, right? Our own coaches helping us conquer our own emotional demons and psychological demons that we have to conquer. They literally haven't put in the work, they haven't invested the time, invested the money in themselves to have the knowledge to be able to do this for people. Right? That's the difference between what we do and what competitors do. Is we're here to fix the real problem, and that is completely 100% in your brain. Contrary to popular opinion is like long game or quick fix. Obviously this is not a quick fix. There's a lot of deep internal work that has to happen inside of this program. And there's a reason a lot of guys stay with us for up to a year. It's because there's a lot to work on. Even after the initial 3-month period, right, there's still work that could be done. So whether or not this is quick fix or long game, this is certainly a long game play, because our goal is for you to never, ever, ever have to hire a coach ever again. Right? After your time with DK, you should be completely unfucked with your health for the rest of your life. Right? However, we can still absolutely get you quick results. Right? But we can do it in a way that is fast up front, slows down, and makes it stick long term. Right? If you look on paper at a guy like Drew, who I mentioned earlier, losing 73 pounds in 4 months, that is fast. A lot of people will tell you that he lost weight too fast, but he'll sit there and tell you he's been force feeding himself to stay full, right? Workouts really haven't been that hard at all. He's excited to work out still. He's on vacation. He's still trying to work out. Right? So we can get you quick results, but we can also make sure that it sticks, and that's the difference. So I think the answer is both, right? You have to be looking for the long game because we're trying to make this stick forever, but like we can absolutely get fast results. We can make it fast up front and slow it down and extend out the process to make sure that those results that you got on the front end stay forever and last, which most people just think about the front end, because the front end is what's good for business, right? Like I said earlier, you follow the breadcrumbs, the trail of breadcrumbs, it's always going to come back to the profits. And a lot of people selling a lot of fast result stuff, they know that the most valuable fitness product in the world would be you swiping your credit card and you instantly look down and you have a 6-pack. That'd be the best selling fitness product in the world because of the speed. So everybody's gonna try to speed it up. We speed it up, but we make sure that that speed sticks. They skip the second part of that equation. They give you the speed, they don't give you the stick. We do both. One step that really any man could take to better themselves today, specifically talking about health, is literally look at your plate. And this is just tactical, right? I'm not getting conceptual here. I'm getting very tactical into the weeds of like things that you can tangibly do right now. Is look at your plate, and every time you look at your plate, protein should be the biggest thing on it. So if I have a plate, you cut it in half of that should be protein, and then you half the other half. So you have a quarter of whatever else it is you're eating and a quarter of whatever else it is you're eating. But if there's one big thing that changes everything for everybody, it's protein intake, always. Because it's going to help with muscle recovery. The more muscle you have, the faster your metabolism is, the easier it is for you to lose that weight and keep it off, right? Muscle is an insurance policy against gaining back the weight because of that metabolism speed increase, right? Protein is also the most satiating. So if you're eating a lot of protein, you're less likely to overeat on your calories. Can you still do it? Yeah, of course. But you're less likely because you're more full, right? Protein also has the highest thermogenic effect, meaning it requires the most calories to burn when you're digesting it. because everything that you eat, carbs, fats, and protein, how your body digests it is it's burning calories to do it. Protein takes the most. So those are 3 just big ways that protein can be powerful for you. And again, this is super in the weeds, like tactical information that you need to take and apply. This is not just conceptual. This is literally go do this right now. That's exactly what that is. That would be the biggest thing. If anybody watching this can go and do tactically to improve, it's that. The piece of advice that I would have given myself, hindsight being 20/20, is the same piece of advice I was giving earlier when it comes to whether or not you want to join this program. Is there's going to be 2 things that are hard: staying the same or making a change. So if I could go back and talk to myself when I was about to drop out of college, any kind of nerves that I had were around the fact that it's going to be hard. Man, I got to navigate this world with no degree. I got to rely on myself for income. I got to rely on myself for all this. There was no other option, and that was hard. But what would have been harder was me continuing to live a life that didn't fulfill me. Me continuing to feel cognitive dissonance because I felt out of alignment with what it was that I was called to do, what it was that I needed to do, and make the impact that I thought I could make. So the same advice I'd give to anybody that's on the fence about joining a program like DK is, what is going to be harder? Staying the same and going through all the same struggles that you're feeling right now, or that period of change, which is probably going to be realistically like 6 to 12 months. What is harder, staying the same or 6 to 12 months of change? And 6 to 12 months of literally rebuilding yourself and starting over and having a new foundation. Personally, if I were to go back, I would have done it sooner. So I have no regrets about it. And anybody thinking about making any kind of big change in their life, you need to ask yourself that question: stay the same or deal with the pain of the change. That's only brief, it's only temporary. And on the other side, the grass is a whole lot greener. I think the only way to be a mentor is to have mentors. So every mentor that we've had, that we've invested in, we've always pulled lessons directly from them and applied it to the people that we serve. And I think that's the only way to grow, right? Because they are constantly sharpening us, and that's how I constantly sharpen the people. Eventually, if you don't have a mentor, if you don't have somebody that's sharpening you, you're gonna get to a point where you plateau. So by having these people in your life that are leading you in some capacity, and it doesn't have to be every area of life, right? Like, you might have a mentor that you're a lot better at relationships than, but he's a lot better at business than you. You might have a mentor that has a lot better health than you, but you're a lot better at business than, right? So there's different realms of life that you look through, and no matter what, having that mentor is always going to be having somebody that's pushing you and forcing you to grow and giving you something to aspire to be like, somebody that's going to continue to sharpen you. So having it for us is irreplaceable. It's a non-negotiable. Every single second that's passed in the last 2.5 years since starting this business, we've had a mentor that we're actively paying or actively talking to literally almost every single day. So mentors are non-negotiable for me, and they always will be. There's no point in time where you'll get to a spot where you are unmentorable, because there's always going to be an area in your life that you can improve upon. Do you have to skip dessert? This is good. Nathan's good. Nathan's the man behind the camera. He's good. This is a great question. So I think there's a misconception with every single fitness program, literally like on planet Earth, that you have to cut out things that you enjoy, that you have to cut out fun foods. And I'm here to tell you that you don't. You can absolutely have dessert. You could have dessert literally every single day if you wanted to, if you accounted for it. And how you do this tactically, what we have our guys practice is the 80-20 principle. 80% of the time you're eating clean, 20% of the time you're having the fun foods, the pizza, the ice cream, the beer, the dessert, whatever it may be, whatever your favorite thing is. And if you look at this on a scale, if we just go numbers, if you're eating 20 meals a week, that would mean about 4 of your meals a week can be kind of like cheat meals, quote unquote. So you can absolutely still have fun foods. Earlier I said you could have them every day if you wanted. How you would work that into a day-to-day would be, you'd need to figure out what your caloric goal is for the day. There's a ton of calculators online. You can do the St. Mifflin-Gior calculator online for free on Google. Search it, you'll find it. You can put in your height, your weight, your age, your activity levels, and it'll give you a rough estimate of your calories. You figure out what your caloric goal is based on the goals that you have. You figure out what your protein goal is based on the goals that you have. Hint, it should be around 1 gram per pound of your goal body weight. If you're trying to be 200 pounds, 200 grams of protein. If you're trying to be 150 pounds, 150 grams of protein. Find that calorie, find that protein, and this is literally what you would do. You would make sure that you've already hit your protein for the day. And then after you've hit your protein for the day, you say, how many calories do I have left now? And then you can fill those calories with dessert. So if after eating 150 grams of protein, you have 400 calories left, you have 400 calories that you can spend on dessert for that day. That is how you do it. There's all kinds of stuff, micro optimizations, getting into the weeds that we could talk about. If we wanted, that'd be a good follow-up question, is talking about the quality of food, because that's just quantity. That's just the quantity, the numbers game. How do I look in the mirror? That's how you eat dessert every single day. Right? But that's only gonna factor in how you look in the mirror. It's not necessarily gonna factor in how you feel. Just covered the quality, like the quantity of food thing. It's like, how do I actually eat dessert every single day, whether or not I'm losing weight or trying to maintain? That's quantity. You also have to consider quality of calories. So when it comes to quality of calories, obviously if you're eating something like dessert every single day, you're not necessarily gonna have the most quality food intake, because all of those cheat meals, those 20% of meals that are like your fun foods, they're fun foods for a reason. They taste really good. They're optimized for how they taste. They're not optimized for how they make you feel or what they do to your body. Okay? What's going on the outside is not always a reflection of what's going on the inside. That's where quality matters. So you do want to limit those things. In an ideal, in an optimal world, in a lab setting, you don't have any dessert. You don't have any processed sugar. However, what's optimal in a lab and what's optimal for your physical appearance and physical stature is not what's necessarily optimal for your lifestyle. If it's gonna make you a happier person, it makes me a happier person, to have ice cream 1 or 2 nights a week, dude, have ice cream once or twice a week. Right? Use that 80-20. But if you wanted the true optimal in a lab capacity, what is gonna give me the best results possible, you're gonna wanna skip those things. But what's optimal in the lab is not always what's optimal in real life and in a real life setting. Supplements are a fun one, because supplements, literally the name is supplement, right? The goal of a supplement is to supplement something that's already a solid foundation. So my biggest thing when people ask about supplements is I run down the list of just basic foundational health things. Are you resistance training, lifting weights, 3 to 5 times a week? Okay. Are you getting some sort of cardiovascular activity in? This could even be walking once or twice a week, at least. Right? Are you eating adequate amount of protein, which would be anywhere near that 1 gram per pound of your goal body weight? Are you getting adequate hydration? You probably want to match your hydration to ounces of water equivalent to grams of protein eaten. And are you getting quality sleep, at least 7 hours a night, and good sleep too, not just laying in bed for 7 hours a night? If you aren't doing those 5 things, chances are you don't need supplements. Could you still take them if you haven't hit those yet? Yeah, you could. But you're much better off focusing on the foundational things that create good health, and then you add in the supplements for that last 5 to 10% push. But like 95% of people watching this, probably 99% of people watching this, aren't at a place where they really need supplements unless there's some specific nutrient that they're lacking. Okay, so for myself, and for most of you guys, a lot of people are magnesium deficient. So that's a specific supplement that you could take if you don't have those 5 already laid. But again, main priority should always be the foundational layers of health first, supplements later, because again, supplements, it's literally in the name, supplements are designed to supplement something that's already solid. When it comes to protein shakes versus whole foods, it's always going to be optimal to get your protein intake from whole foods because of the nutrients that whole foods possess, specifically animal-based proteins. You look at this from a micronutrient perspective, whether it be branched-chain amino acids, whether it be minerals, or whether it be vitamins, the animal-based protein sources, the chicken, beef, eggs, salmon, things along those lines, those are always going to be more nutrient dense than any protein shake that you can find, even if it's a whey protein isolate, which comes from an animal-based source, milk. The whole foods aren't processed. They come from the earth. That is optimal. However, if you find yourself in a situation where you're struggling to hit your protein goal, or maybe you're busy and you don't have time to cook a lot of meals, you could opt for a protein shake. I've done it before. Nathan watched me do it last night. I was a little low on protein and it was towards the end of the night, so I just ripped a protein shake. It's not optimal from a quality perspective at all. It'll always be optimal to get your protein from whole food sources when it comes to quality. But if you just need to hit the numbers, that's where a protein shake comes into play for speed, efficiency, and just simplicity. If you're a family-minded man that's looking to lose anywhere from 20 to 100 plus pounds and you found yourself struggling with that yo-yo cycle, right? You lose 10 pounds, you gain 15 back. You binge, and then you restrict, and you consistently go back and forth. You can't seem to find a way to actually make the weight loss stick permanently. All you need to do is go to defaultkings.com, and we have a free training page where you can opt in, and we'll give you a video that shows you exactly how we've helped over 350 men lose an average of 30.1 pounds and keep it off for good without sacrificing all the fun foods, without spending 2 hours a day in the gym, and without gaining it all back. So if that's you, go to defaultkings.com. We guarantee that you lose 10% of your body weight in 12 weeks, and we refund you if that doesn't happen. That's our offer.